Hey everyone, this is a breakdown video about the Queen Supplementary Essay question number 2 for January set of questions. Now, just as a quick announcement, these questions are due February 15th and not on February 1st. If you'd like details as to the difference in why this isn't February 1st and it is due on the 15th, go to our Instagram, follow us on Instagram, and also you can see a post that details that out and who we spoke to at admissions who verified that. Okay, so the question here is describe a problem you've solved or one that you'd like to solve. Why did you or do you feel it's important? And what steps did or would you take to solve it? Maximum 2,000 characters with spaces. This is very similar to December question number 2. If you could start an organization to help a cause or community in need, what issue would it address and why? So we're going to be using a kind of a similar structure and some similar approach to answering this question as we did to the December question. You can go into the bootcamp and refer back to the December question number 2 if you'd like another essay example or see how we approach that question. And also, speaking of essay examples and templates, you can see those in the video description below. You can make your own copy of the templates and work on your own draft in that copy by going into File and Make a Copy. It's just a Google document, so you can make your own copy, and then use the paragraph by paragraph structure that we suggest you do to follow this writing approach and make it very compelling. So let's dive into general do's and don'ts. Do's: talk about a problem where you have proven involvement. And we'll tell you why that's really important later. Talk about a problem that showcases you and your background. That's where you're going to get a lot of personal insight, and that's where it's going to differentiate you. Take some action on impacting the problem that you choose. That's really, really important. Talk about how Smith Commerce will help you solve that problem, or maybe continue exploring that problem once you get to Smith. Do not, on the other hand, choose a frivolous problem or something that isn't very serious, something that maybe many other people are experiencing. And the fact that you've dedicated your essay to this problem is kind of like, oh, well, why wouldn't that person choose something that's a little bit more important or significant to the world? For instance, there's a problem. I'm on lockdown right now. I mean, we're all on lockdown. This is something that isn't really unique or significant to you. Or significant to the world, and what's the solution to this right now? So that's an example of a frivolous problem. It's really important that this problem is seen as real, as serious, and that's key. Don't choose a problem already being frequently served or being solved a lot or maybe being discussed a lot. If you do choose a problem like that, then you need to get more specific. Don't use this essay as a way to boast about your impact. Yes, there is one paragraph where you can talk about your impact, but don't use the entire essay to do so. So the way to figure out your why or to figure out a great problem is to first look at your resume or look at your background or your student profile, all your extracurriculars, volunteer experiences, employment experiences, etc. See what those have in common, what problems that you've seen or observed in each of those experiences. For instance, maybe you had an internship with a real estate company. Maybe you are really passionate about solving the wealth gap. Maybe you are really involved in your local community, and maybe you also participate in your student government or politics club at school. So for instance, if you combine all these, it's very easy for you to create a solution that is going to be really effective at talking about how you took action on this problem. And I'll go into this solution a little bit more in detail as we explore the essay example that we wrote up here. Follow the story structure, which is a 4-step structure to telling a story. Remember, these are stories. They're not essays. If you write an essay, you're not going to be differentiated. The reader isn't going to remember you, and they're not going to feel emotions when they read about you, and they're not going to know who you are. Whereas if you write a story and you're the lead character in that story, it's going to be much more interesting and exciting to read, and they're going to know who you are as a character and as a person. Here's the essay template framework that we suggest you follow on a paragraph by paragraph basis. So The hook is actually optional, so this is typically a way for you to capture the reader's attention, give them a preview of what's to come. Again, I have a lot of students who are tackling the hook first, particularly when it's optional. Do not tackle it first. All the time, you should actually do it at the end once all of the content for the remainder of the essay is finalized. Then you can see if you have enough character account, number one, for a hook, and number two, you can figure out what the hook should actually be about because you have all the content for this later. It's like an executive summary. You want to write those at the end. Context. The problem and why it's important. You want to dedicate under 400 characters to this. So you mention the problem, why it's important to you. Be really, really specific about this problem. For example, climate change is quite broad, whereas circular fashion is much, much more specific. Make sure the problem is really authentic to you. So if you're not passionate about fashion and you have no extracurriculars that demonstrate that passion, you want to choose another problem. And use the 5 whys approach to give the reader a deep insight into who you are and why this is truly an important problem for you. So the 5 whys would be, let's say you choose the problem of circular fashion. You ask, why is circular fashion important to me? Well, it's important to me because I don't want the environment to, be impacted so significantly by fast fashion. Why do you find that important to you? Because I want to live in a world that is sustainable and it treats the environment the right way and gives back to the world in the way that it gives back to us. Why? Because I want my kids also to be able to live in a similar world that is just as beautiful that I have been able to experience. Why? Again, try to go why as many times as you can. If you get to the 5, that's great, and that's where you get to a deep, deep level insight that the reader can tell more about you, and your answer is going to be more differentiated. So after that, you have a 400 character catalyst paragraph where you talk about some action. You must have taken some action on this problem. If you haven't, then you have to choose another problem. It doesn't mean that you have to have started a nonprofit or a club at school. If you did, that's where you explain this here. But you have to demonstrate at least some progress towards making an impact on this problem. This is the action. This isn't the impact. So this is what you did. Describe in detail what you did, what you've done. If you didn't do anything, choose something else. This is really, really essential because the people who get into this program will have done a lot on their problem. The outcome. So this is the impact that you've had, the impact of your action that you've taken so far. Make it real with specific stories and examples. Use with people. Use numbers and quantitatively quantitatively measure your impact. And then also, what's the qualitative or bigger picture impact that you've had through your efforts. And then the last paragraph is 450 characters approximately, and that's a continued commitment. So explain how you would continue the impact of this problem going forward. Maybe you have plans to continue working on the problem over the summer or during your time at Queen's or in your future career. You can do research on ComSoc's committees, conferences, or clubs that are part of the AMS to demonstrate this. So here's the example that we look at. We actually did put a hook just for reference. So as a child of parents who immigrated to Canada with nothing, I've seen firsthand how important it is to have affordable housing. In my community, there are 2 options for housing. This is the context and why the problem is important. Expensive neighborhoods, which have houses attainable for very few families, and the so-called affordable housing neighborhoods or trailer park communities with a low standard of living. There's no middle ground. People either live in opulent luxury or barely above the poverty line. While my community is a desirable area, with these polarizing options, it isn't possible for many people to live here. Most families, including my own, were forced to relocate, creating an even larger gap and threatening the vitality of local businesses. Then your action. So this move made my family and I feel like we had failed because we couldn't achieve the standard of life that we moved to Canada for. This was devastating because even though we left our country and worked hard in Canada, it still didn't seem like enough. This experience inspired me to take action and avoid others feeling this way. I started a change.org campaign to get 1,000 signatures for our city council to review a proposal, and I created a proposal I created for building middle tier housing. Outcome, the impact. I drafted a budget and spoke with local developers to persuade the council this is the type of housing that was not only affordable, but that it would also strengthen the community and as a whole, and bring new businesses and income from diverse tiers of people. Within just a few weeks, I received more than 1,300 signatures, and the city council has promised to review it in the coming months. If passed, this would not only save the community, but reinforce the idea that Canada has opportunities for everyone, no matter what their financial abilities are. This experience showed me, this is a continued commitment, that applying my leadership skills can lead to real change. I intend to apply what I learned to my future at Smith, whether that's with the Real Estate Investment Association, which is an actual club at Smith in Comstock, or as an external commissioner with Comstock. That's an actual position with the Comstock Committee. So that's basically it. If you have not done any action on the problem, you should watch the leadership development module in the bootcamp, because that gives you some clear ways on how you can actually make take action on problems, sometimes in a very short amount of time, including the change.org campaign. So that's it. If you have any questions, and you're working with a coach, draw those to the coach. If not, best of luck with this essay, and best of luck working on solving this problem in your community with innovative and unique approaches. This doesn't have to be significant, but just show that you've done some progress into solving this problem, at least in a very small way, even with a very small population, and that will make it more real and more impactful than no progress at all. So thank you so much, and best of luck to everyone.